You know, when you see a meme and you just have to laugh because it just reflects your life at that moment. So this is one that I got and I found really good.
Em português, it says: Na minha lápide vai estar escrito: aguentou foi é muito. E em um texto embaixo, não deixou herdeiros e viveu de dipirona e café. So this translates to: on my gravestone, it will be written, dealt with a shitload, and basically lived out of dipirone, which is a painkiller, and coffee.
Sometimes it's so true that that's actually what life feels like in some moments. But what if, even in those moments, we could see our lives not as a mess, but as something meaningful and something that is always in motion? I'm Anna, and this is the Value Signal. So I love mentioning Bashar here in the channel. You probably noticed that. And in his teachings, Bashar says the universe is so abundant, it even allows you to believe it is not, or it allows you to perceive an abundance of lack. You see, the problem isn't your value, it's the lens through which you are measuring it. So maybe you are comparing yourself or you are setting really high standards and you're thinking that your worth is less because of that. But that is just a faulty lens. You know, you can always ask yourself, what am I choosing to see today? You know, when you can look at maybe the chaos that surrounds you and try to change your emotional filter so that it reflects more of who you are instead of just what your circumstances in this moment might be. So let's think about this for a minute. I want to actually bring here some tools for when life feels unfiltered and maybe unfixable, and you're just kind of going through what you have to do with painkiller and coffee, maybe. But you can focus on what's working, however small. Something always is working. So you can honor the micro wins. You know, maybe you are in the middle of a turmoil and you are still managing to be patient with your kids, or you're still managing to have a loving word to your partner or your loved other, or you still manage to, you know, go outside and get some sunlight, or you're hydrating well, or I don't know. There's always things that we take for granted that are actually working in our chaotic lives and that we forget to honor. So that is one thing you can focus on to change your lens. Another way you can do it is to do what you do well even better. You know, make your effort sacred. That was the teacher of Carlos Castaneda, Mexican Indian master. And he talks about impeccability, about being impeccable. And you can be impeccable even when you're washing the dishes. You know, you're washing the dishes, you can wash them impeccably. And if you bring this lens of impeccability to what you're doing, you bring more intention to it. And it does make your effort sacred, even if it's just, you know, doing the wash or walking the dog. Another important tool, and that's probably one of the most important ones, is radical self compassion. And here is an important point. You know, what is compassion? My background is Tibetan Buddhism, so compassion is a very big theme. And compassion means the wish to end someone's suffering and brings with it a touch of action. You want to do something about it. So it's not looking at something or looking at yourself and going, oh, you poor thing, because that's pity. That's not compassion. And compassion is not pity. Compassion is looking and willing to act with the resources you have. So, a way I would say radical self compassion would work is you look at yourself and you realize that with the resources you have in your hand, you are probably doing your absolute best. I'll repeat that. With the resources you have in your hands right now, you probably are doing your best. Because if you think about it, all of us are doing the best we can with what we have at hand, which leads to one important truth. If you want to do better, you might simply need different or more resources in order to do so. So don't punish yourself. That's the radical self compassion. Recognize that maybe you're not doing better because you're limited in your resources. I'll go through the tools right now and I will come back to this point of resources so we can expand on that. And you can practice gratitude. Acknowledge what is here, even as you move towards more, or even if it's not perfect and it's not the way you desire. It will only get better if you can actually see the good that you already have. You know, you will only get more from the universe. This is what I really believe. If you manage to see what you already have, because if what you already have is worthless for you, then why would you get more? You know, so recognize what you already have that is good and be grateful for it. Like, really, take a moment, close your eyes, and think about 3 things you can be grateful for. And I'm sure you'll find them in your life. And try to do this regularly. It will set a different lens with which you look at your life. And gratitude is an antidote to a lot of negative feelings. It can actually change the biochemistry of your brain to a more positive one. So that's a crucial point that you can do every day, and that doesn't cost anything. And the 5th tool I want to talk about is following the formula. Here comes Bashar again. So the formula is a lot more complex than this, but I'll simplify it to the one point that's important here, which is act on your excitement with integrity and no insistence on the outcome. And I think one of the best places to implement the formula is on everyday life. Because you see, when you think about it and you think act on your passion or act on your excitement, you think, like Bashar says, you think you have to be running around and going up and down with your hair on fire, but you don't. Because the thing is, when you think about a passion project, like a big project in your life that you want to act on, you have a lot of insistence and a lot of expectations on the outcome. And that is where the formula goes wrong. And in your everyday life, you don't have that. So in every moment of your life, you have a width of possibilities that you can act on. You can go and have a coffee, you can do the dishes, or you can do the washing, or you can call a friend, or you can journal, or you can play with your kids. I don't know. There is always some possibilities. And then if you take a moment with intention and think, okay, what do I want to do now? And if any of those stands out as just a little bit more exciting than the others, then that's the one you should act on in that moment. And if all is the same, then you can just flip a coin. And if you flip a coin and you see that something came out and you think, oh, actually, I wanted to do the other, then it just brought you clarity and you go and do the other. You see? So following the formula is also an important way to acknowledge yourself, acknowledge what you need, and learn to listen to what goes on inside you. And it does build up with time to actually managing to understand the language of excitement, which is the language of our higher self. This is how it communicates with us, through excitement. So I want to go back to the point about resources and define them in a different way. Because when we think about resources, we usually think about money. And of course, money is a very important resource in our world. It does help. It gives us a lot of freedom of opportunity. But there are other resources that are maybe just as important, like time, clarity, flexibility, resilience, creativity or creative bandwidth, emotional capacity. These are resources that will enrich our lives. You know, as a young doctor working in the ER, people would come into the ER with a code and I would be mad at them because I was young and I didn't really understand. And I was like, why are they coming here with a code? Can I just deal with it at home? You don't need deep medical knowledge to deal with a code. But then one of my preceptors, when I complained once about something like that, he said, well, they are here because they lack resources. They are not capable of dealing with their code at home. And so they come to the ER. And it's true. It's sad that some people don't even have the resources to make themselves ginger lemon tea at home for their code. And so they have to look for medical assistance. But maybe they don't have the emotional resources too, or logistical or relational. They lack resources. And that's why they look for help. In a lot of ways, when we stop seeing value in our everyday lives, it's because we're lacking the resources to see it in a different way. So if you use the tools I mentioned above to start bringing value into your daily life, that will also expand your resources because you start reclaiming and bringing intention into your everyday life. And nowadays, we still have another resource which we can use to free up energy for what matters, and that is using AI. You can use it to get organized, to look for inspiration, to get structured, to build micro habits. And I will go deep into that in the next episode because it's something I've been working on. And with that, you can free up energy and free up resources for what actually matters for you. So if you need help exploring this idea of AI as a deeper tool, then by all means, do download the prompt library. The link is below in the description. It's free and make it yours. And just remember, you are not broken. You may just be under-resourced. Shift begins with how you see your life, yourself, but it continues with what you do. So we'll go deeper into building that resource bank through health resets, through everyday systems and habit loops. And you're not just surviving on Dipperone and coffee. You're adapting. You're resilient. Let's build from there. Download the free life-changing prompt library below. Start building your internal and external toolkit for clarity, creativity, and momentum. If you like what I'm doing, gently hit that subscribe button and that like button, share some love, and share it with anyone who might be needing some value or to see the value in themselves and in their everyday lives. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you in the next episode.